Hello, my name is Chana Samanathan. I'm a specialist solutions architect, and I'm really happy to be here with you today presenting this webinar on planning a seamless migration to AWS IoT Core. Let's get started here. Before we get too far into the main content, I want to share that this webinar was created to support a blog which we published just a little bit over 2 months ago. The blog is called Planning a Seamless Migration to AWS IoT Core, the same as this webinar, because we wanted to expand on what we started to talk about in that blog and really bring the messaging to you directly with the webinar. Please have a look at the blog. You can search for it with AWS IoT blogs or click on the link which is provided as part of this webinar page. So this is the agenda I'll be following today. The presentation is going to cover three important topics related to IoT platform migrations and AWS IoT. First, what are the common challenges that companies encounter managing a connected device platform? Second, what are the typical migration scenarios and what does an IoT platform migration look like? And third, we'll cover ways AWS can help accelerate an IoT migration journey. The IoT market continues to grow at an aggressive pace. What that means for a company or a team managing an IoT device or connected product platform is that they can expect to build and launch more and more connected devices. And this highlights the need to have the ability to effectively manage your connected device and their fleets at scale. The connected product innovation snowball occurs after a company launches that first successful IoT project. So that first connected product turns into maybe three products, then nine. And as customers and product managers, business owners, and companies ask for more innovation and connectivity for those devices, things get a little bit more complex. But what a lot of people fail to understand is the complexity of managing the connected software stack at scale, which only intensifies as you build and launch a whole portfolio of connected products. Now, at the core of this complexity is the IoT platform and the connected software stack itself. Each connected device requires the following: an OS, libraries, a robust security architecture, the communication protocol itself, and OTA or over the air mechanism with maintenance plan for security and feature updates for that software stack. From the many customers we have worked with and listened to about the connected IoT platforms, these are the primary challenges which companies are grappling with today. And this applies to both homegrown platforms, for example, built on AWS and hosted on EC2 or a comparable solution, and to the solutions licensed from third parties. The top challenges many companies face with their existing or legacy IoT platforms are cost concerns. So certainly cost is often cited as a concern with the use of expensive third-party solutions. For example, customers have saved nearly 90% per device on migrating to AWS IoT. Next is the speed of innovation. So some platforms can hamper the ability to easily innovate and add new features, making it necessary to move to a platform that's better for long-term innovation. Next, security. Customers continue to rank security as their top concern for their connected device strategy, and we want to help them modernize to have that better protection for the customers and their brand itself. Technology upheavals. So changes to the industry often requires a company to change their IoT platform. Most commonly, we've seen many instances of third-party vendors closing down their IoT platform offerings. We've seen that most recently here. So this requires companies to find and migrate to a new solution in a short period of time. And finally, scalability. Many companies worry about the ability for their existing IoT platforms to scale as the customer usage increases, and the difficulty to manage the life cycle and the updates of their devices itself. So there's also concern about any kind of downtime, the quality issues that impact the customer satisfaction. And at AWS, we can help our customers with all of these different pieces. And these are just a few examples of companies that have confronted those challenges with their old IoT platforms and committed to move to AWS IoT in order to remove the barriers that would limit any of their future plans. And migrating to AWS IoT didn't just provide a platform for long-term success. For example, Traeger also cut their cost per device by 90%. And they migrated 120,000 in production grills with zero disruptions using the AWS IoT service across their connected grill modules. LG saved development time that freed resources to focus on their innovation. As a leading provider of electronics products worldwide, LG announced plans to add AI to their TV and appliance products with LG ThinQ. LG migrated ThinQ to AWS IoT, stating that AWS was the only cloud provider whose IoT services could meet the LG's requirements to support the thin platform. And finally, iRobot significantly improved the scalability of their platform by moving to AWS IoT Core. Here's some other examples also of customers that have moved to AWS IoT. So Belkin migrated in order to better manage their Vimo ecosystem with millions and millions of connected devices. With AWS, Belkin saved between 30 to 40% in operational costs and reduced their development time by about 40%. Centrisa Hive migrated about 900,000 in production smart hubs to their new platform with AWS IoT without any disruption, adding security and ML capabilities to those devices. As we work with companies to consider and plan a successful migration strategy, we encounter these three scenarios each time. The first is the next-gen migration, building a new IoT platform for new devices, but leaving the legacy platform untouched until it's a EOL or end of life. So therefore, all new devices are going to be shipped with the new AWS IoT-based platform for the customers. The next one, Brownfield migration, there are often cases where the live in-field devices require an IoT platform refresh. So this scenario migrates the Brownfield or live IoT devices to a completely new IoT platform with AWS IoT, while they're in the field and being used by customers all the time. And lastly, we have the hybrid migration. So some customers don't want to overwrite their entire platform, but they want to enhance that brownfield devices with the elements of AWS IoT. So while we work with a new next generation IoT platform for connected devices, the old hybrid model maintains that brownfield scenario also. And in this particular scenario, customers are looking at ways to gather new data insights from old devices or how to improve the security architecture of their legacy device itself. Here's another example of a commercial company that successfully migrated to AWS IoT. We use Spearger, which is an R&D arm of ABI and Bev, the largest distributor of brewery products for beer products worldwide. They needed to replace their legacy IoT platform with a much modernized architecture. They selected AWS IoT for scalability, for security, and for the AWS Analytics service with AI ML capabilities that would enhance their analytics solutions overall. Now we will talk a bit about the AWS IoT approaches and our solution stack directly. So at AWS, we provide several ways for customers to go about building their IoT solutions. Customers can pick and choose just the individual functionalities and services which they need to build out a bespoke solution while still having the highest security, the flexibility, and the control to scale their growth. Secondly, we also have purpose-built services, and these are managed services that target specific use cases, verticals, and industries with common patterns which really don't need to be redefined or recreated in any way. These can be implemented quickly and at scale. And lastly, we have complete solutions that could be built end to end for our customers' needs. These progress from reference architectures to discovery days with partners or AWS ProServe. And the main goal here is to accelerate the time to market for the respective application itself. Regardless of which approach is taken, the main tenets of using AWS IoT are there, from long-term stability, scale, fleet management, to cost savings, security, and finally, agility and faster innovation to the market. Here's a holistic view of the AWS IoT service and solution stack. At the bottom layer, you have the building blocks for IoT. They are comprised of device software, connectivity and control, and analytics and streaming. These three work hand in hand to gather the data, to ingest the data, and to perform analytics upon that data. Along with these IoT services, we have over 200 AWS services which can work downstream for helping the customer with their infrastructure and intelligence and machine learning needs. The next layer, purpose-built services, allow customers to build IoT applications quickly and seamlessly, which are secure, reliable, and scalable for specific industries and use cases. And at the top is our solutions layer, which provides industry-specific use cases, templates, and modules to accelerate the application build process. So what does an IoT platform migration journey really look like? Well, we start with a section by acknowledging and recognizing that no two IoT platforms are the same, and that no two companies have the same exact business and technology requirements for their connected device strategy. Each company has a different hardware and device requirements. They have different business goals. They have different technical constraints, maybe different geographic concerns, among many other things that we have to take into account for. So we recognize this and we have this in mind as we help you chart that migration journey from beginning to end. Customers ask us, well, what are the things that we can do to get started with this journey? And at a high level, the steps for migration are the following. First, we do a performance migration assessment. Then we make a plan to successfully migrate based on the scenario that's best for your particular customers. And finally, we try to execute that migration and plan for ongoing innovation. And that could also be an iterative process as we go along. Now, the key to this slide is really highlighting that AWS understands that there's many steps and phases to successfully executing a migration project. And AWS is here to assist with every single step from beginning to the end. For successful IoT platform migrations, customers typically go through a three-phase journey to accomplish their objectives, where the journey begins with a migration assessment phase and often a business case to demonstrate the economics and the TCO model that justify doing a migration itself. Second, readiness and planning phase, which is designed to really build the capabilities for the customer resources and to prepare the work streams that are necessary for that particular successful migration. Next, the migration plan is mapped in the readiness and planning phase, and it's executed in line with best practices, which are supported by AWS resources and maybe even a partner itself, if one is used to accelerate this migration project for the customer. Now, we have learned from experience and helping a variety of customers spanning different industries and different use cases. So there's a few best practices that we try to follow when planning and modernizing an IoT project itself. First and foremost is working closely with your AWS account team. Now, these are the account managers, the account SAs, and maybe the IoT specialist team, which is critical for the success of your migration. They bring a range of experience and are really committed to helping with all phases and steps of that journey. Next, a qualified partner or working with AWS ProServe team is also a best practice, as they have helped many customers migrate to AWS IoT and can play a major or minor role with your team to make the migration successful. We also recommend a simple pilot or proof of concept to prove the technical aspects of that migration, which paves the way for a full production rollout. And finally, your account team, IoT specialist, and a qualified partner can help you identify and remove any kind of blockers to ensure that there's a successful migration from beginning to end. Therefore, when considering an IoT modernization or migration project, many customers also ask, well, where should I begin? AWS has found that a one-day migration readiness assessment workshop is an effective tool for both technical and business owners to work with AWS resources to assess what an AWS IoT platform migration looks like and seeing what your readiness is across different key dimensions using the AWS well-architected framework. This framework is something that we use to make sure that something is, in fact, well architected for cost, reliability, scalability, etc. So the outcome of the workshop is a simple report that informs an organization about the migration project and the areas that they should really think about and address in order to prepare for that successful migration. So what can AWS offer in the form of that migration? Well, to help accelerate your IoT platform monetization product, in addition to the AWS account team and IoT specialist resources available to you, AWS also provides the following complementary services to assist and accelerate your migration projects. First, the IoT Innovation Lab for IoT migrations and platform modernization. Next, an IoT migration discovery and design workshop with the AWS ProServe team. And finally, an AWS IoT Services Immersion Day workshop with the IoT Solution Architecture team. All of these are offered complimentary, no cost to yourself as a customer. The IoT Innovation Lab, which we launched in 2017 to connect IoT experts with technical and business stakeholders at company that would like to do different types of ideation, to do different types of projects, and to really build with AWS IoT as a whole. So specific to migrations, we offer an IoT Innovation Lab for customers that want to bring in key stakeholders together, both business and technical, and to move toward a decision to really see whether they want to migrate or not, and also to assess the benefit and the value of making that migration. Second, the AWS ProServe team provides a complementary IoT migration, discovery, and design workshop. And this usually is a 2 to 4 day workshop based on the customer's needs to understand what that IoT architecture should look like and to really deep dive on a plan for the migration. And the outcome of this workshop is free. So we provide several different artifacts after this workshop is done. We provide a proposed architecture for the migration project itself. We deliver a milestone roadmap to see what needs to be done when and when things can actually be done. And then we have a breakdown of the project with any kind of cost estimates for the customer to consider. And finally, a skills matrix. So the skills matrix is really to let the customer know what type of skills are necessary, either from their side or from our side, to help them out to make the migration as successful as possible. And finally, if you prefer to do the migration work on your own and don't want to work with a partner or AWS ProServe team, the IoT SA team provides a complimentary IoT services immersion day workshop to educate you on the IoT services, to make sure that you understand your current architecture, and to outline a plan for a very successful migration. Now, as we said earlier, a best practice is to select a qualified partner that can assist with your IoT migration journey. We have advanced AWS consulting partners with established AWS practices ready to assist in each of these different regions, whether it's Americas, the Asia Pacific, and Japan, and EMEA. So we also have funding programs available to mitigate the costs associated with using the qualified partner. So highly recommend that you talk to your account team and to get that process started. In addition to the support AWS provides for your migration project, AWS has several programs we can help you leverage, which include the AWS programs such as MAP. This is the Migration Acceleration Program to offset the costs to migrate and to give you incentive to commit to using AWS IoT service in return for helping with the migration itself. We can provide AWS IoT and other service credits to you for the POC itself, so you can commit to a production rollout at downstream there. And we also have mechanisms available to help and fund partners that are available to help you accelerate your migration journey as a whole. Now, here are some examples of migration, both brownfield and a hybrid. I'll just talk through at a high level, but it really kind of highlights, where somebody would come in their migration path and which paths they would take and such. So I'll just talk through each of these talking points at a high level. So you start at the number one there, where you have legacy IoT platform pushing a firmware update to those deployed devices, the existing devices. And number two could be where the devices, both legacy and new, are now talking to the AWS IoT core platform. And the IoT rules engine can route these different types of data to either a Dynamo database for storage and use in the client's application, or going to number four there for IoT's IoT core device shadow, which allows the clients to really access the latest device state and send the commands back to the backend service or back to the device. And then you have, for example, number five, where it has IoT events, which can execute different complex events, different types of detection on any kind of telemetry data that's sent through the rules engine, and that can send it downstream for other types of services for any event that was detected. For example, sending it downstream for any kind of operations with Amazon SNS, which is a simple notification service. Number six, there you have IoT Device Defender, which is going to continuously audit your IoT configurations for security metrics for any type of your devices, doing some kind of deviation from what they're normally expected to do. And if they do detect that there's some kind of deviation, alarms can be triggered through Amazon SNS again to your operations team. And number seven, there you have the API gateway, which can invoke any kind of Lambda functions, which go and do other types of logic, perhaps to retrieve the data that's requested from the database itself and to do some other actions with it. And finally, you have the client applications that can make an API call to retrieve certain types of data from the API gateway. And number nine, where you have operations that can send notifications out through SNS, and you can also manage the device fleet with Fleet Hub, which is a feature of AWS IoT device management. So really using all the IoT services to control and the existing deployed devices, as well as letting a customer migrate and add new devices in a brownfield platform migration. So next slide I'd like to go through here is the hybrid platform migration. So in the hybrid migration, we have an existing platform, the legacy IoT platform. You can see number one there, you have the existing device fleet that's going to continue to talk and communicate with the existing current platform. And there's some backend services also provided by the legacy platform. But any of the new devices that are connected there, number two, these are going to be sending maybe some kind of telemetry data and commands to IoT core, which is shown there. And behind the IoT core, you have things like the rule engine, which can send the data based on specific rules to maybe a Dynamo database or some kind of Lambda functions that takes action upon that data. You can use device shadow to store that data and to have other services read from that data. For example, you have the Amazon API gateway reading from that device shadow. And number three, you have the old and the new platform that can integrate together for the backend request. And with that data, whenever that data is needed, you could be sending that data to some kind of Lambda functions. So both the legacy and the new data can be coexisting and working together for any kind of analytics that you want to do. And finally, number four, you have the new platform and the legacy platform all in one place. So the customer can interact and route messages from a single API out to those two different platforms. And that really allows the new functionality to be easily added to the platform, and that can benefit both the old legacy platform and the new platform itself. So just as example, walk through there, an example of the hybrid platform migration. Now, as we said at the beginning of this session, the IoT landscape is moving rapidly, and legacy systems can impede any kind of future growth and innovation. So customers are migrating to a modernized IoT platform to reduce their costs, to improve their scalability, and to plan for the future. AWS is ready to help accelerate your migration project with direct support and funding options with partners. Let us know how we can help you along this journey. Thank you very much for your time today and allowing us to share some migration information with you. Please have a look at the website for the link to put your information into if you have any questions. One of our AWS IoT experts will reach out to you for any kind of further discussion for your IoT needs. Thank you very much. Take care.